Welcome to the 130th episode of Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we're back to break down episodes that aired in week 3 of the spring 2020 season. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since all three of us will spoil everything about all these anime. And my name is Leo, and if Princess Kaguya went to the moon and left me an elixir of immortality, I'd use it to play Call of Duty Warzone duos for the rest of my life. Also with me are Bcom and Cat. Yeah, they still haven't come out with those, so.
Hey,
I'm Bcom.
Hey.
That one cracked me up. I just like the idea of like, instead of doing something romantic, just fucking play more Call of Duty.
That is romance for Leo. He's like, yeah, you want to play Call of Duty with me?
Do a little bonding.
Yeah, you do.
I guess you got special message?
Yeah, special note. I got like an email on like our podcast account about like Google Play podcasts switching over to Google Podcasts, like rebranding at the end of the year. So I was like, all right, I'll do that like right now. Why not? So we have like basically moved our Google Play feed over to Google Podcasts. So if you are listening through Google Play, you're going to want to go like download the Google Podcasts app on iOS or Android. And in the links in our YouTube videos and our podcast feed, the link tree link that has like all of our links in one place, that's the updated link is there if you can't find it for whatever reason. So yeah, just heads up that, I guess Google Play is getting rolled into YouTube Music by the end of the year. So they split off the podcast into their own thing. Yeah.
That is very interesting. I don't know. That's a big move to make whenever you change something like that, because everyone has to do it. It's interesting.
It's true.
It has to be a big reason for why you decide to do something like that, you know?
I don't know. Google just decides to do shit all the time. I don't know if they like really think about it.
Like, we don't care about everyone in the world. They're going to have to deal with our decision. You know what?
Google's like, maybe someday we'll just fuck around and delete Gmail. That's Google. Like that Google doesn't. You can't even like explain.
We'll just watch everyone freak out and scream and laugh to ourselves. I'm just imagining a bunch of like computer scientists in a room, like, watch what happens when I delete Gmail.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
People are like, ah.
That's like my sign-in name for everything.
Oh, I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat, have you gotten up to any nonsense? You're still stuck at home, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been watching Kakushigoto and our Arte, and I really like both of them.
Yeah,
they're both
good.
really good shows. Surprisingly more serious than I thought either of them could achieve, so I'm happy with that. I'm also watching this show. Like, the world has gotten so much smaller because like all you can do is watch things now.
Yeah.
But I'm also watching this dumb reality show. I've never, I don't think, watched a reality show all the way through before now on Netflix because I had friends keep suggesting it to me. It's called Love is Blind, and it's just a bunch of people being really catty with each other, basically. Making stupid decisions about love and being like, I know you, I've known you for 10 days. Let's get married. Why isn't this working well? It's very dramatic. It's fun.
Nice.
Oh, boy. Makes me think of 90 Day Fiancé.
It's kind of like that.
Is like just like so interesting to watch because it's just a fucking shit show.
It's basically a bunch of people who you have to pick your fiance by talking to people, and you don't get to see them until you pick. It's supposed to make it so like you pick one out of personality or whatever.
Right.
And then it all is great and good until you meet them. And then, like, I guess one of the dudes is hotter than most of the other ones. And then immediately, like, other girls are like, I regret my decision. I want him. They're just being catty and shit. And I'm just like, oh my God. What is this? Stop it.
Jesus.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's something to watch.
I can definitely see how that. Somebody thought that up, and they're like, we know this is going to be bad, so let's do it. This will be just interesting for the rest of us.
Yeah, it's like, we know this will cause terrible results. Let's do it. It'll be great.
Nice.
Yeah, but I've got to watch a lot more anime than I normally do in a season, which is enjoyable.
Same. Yeah, I've been watching more anime outside of like what we have to watch as well too.
Yes.
I guess
that's your nonsense, isn't it?
Speaking of which, I finally got around to watching this show that aired in 2007 called Bokurano, which is fucking so well written. It's this show about a bunch of teenagers who go out to this like summer camp together, and they go into like this cave by the ocean, which like happens in a lot of anime. Like in Toradora, they go into cave by the ocean for like test of courage kind of thing. But at the bottom of this,
is there a song called Cave by the Ocean? There should be.
There's a song called Cake by the Ocean.
I think that's what I think that's what you're thinking of, Leo, is Cake by the Ocean. Actually, in my head, as you were talking, someone was going, keep on hoping we'll eat cake by the ocean. And I'm like, don't say it. Just keep focusing on what he's saying.
I can't unhear that song. It's been played too much. But yeah, at the bottom of this cave, they just find this like weird science like lab that this one guy is running. He's like, oh yeah, I'm a game developer, I'm making this game, do you guys want to like help beta test it for me? You get to like save the world in the game. You fight against like giant robots. And so they're like, all right, the 15 of us will all sign up, why not? And they all have to like input their names and like put their hand on this sensor. Turns out it's not a game. Turns out like they signed up to do like death battles with giant robots where like one by one each of them pilots the robot against in a certain fight. And spoilers for the first couple episodes, like when they are done piloting the robot, it like sucks the life force out of them and they die. And then the next pilot for the next battle is chosen, and there's like a few days in between each battle. And so it becomes this like psychological thing of like all of these different kids trying to find like the motivation or the meaning in life to like get up for these battles and just do them, because like some of them like don't care about protecting the earth, so they need to find other reasons that they would want to fight these battles, whether it's like a personal grudge or like something that they want to personally do.
So they go into these battles knowing they will die.
Yes, yeah. After like the first couple, they're pretty sure about it. Like, and then then it becomes like extremely clear. The thing that's so good about this show is like it kept bringing in these plot twists that just made it even better, like throughout the entire thing. And I don't want to spoil those because like I think it's such a cool journey to go on. It's also really dark at the beginning. There's like, especially with some of the female characters, like the girls who have to take over, some of their backstories are exceedingly dark, which is it's just fun. I like dark stuff, but like some of it was like pushing the line. But I thought it was all well written enough to the point where I was like, no, this is just really interesting. Like this is just a really intriguing psychological journey into these people. The only drawbacks I would say are that like the music is not very good. Like it's like a lot of like synthesized stuff that like if they had a better soundtrack, this anime would probably come off even better. And some of the animation is like a little dated, though it still looks pretty cool overall. But so it's like, I think it's like a perfect candidate if they were ever going to remake an old show or something, because it's got great writing, it's got great characters. If they just remade the like visuals and like sound of it, it would be even better.
Studio Gonzo, okay.
Yeah, and like where Studio Gonzo is these days, like, yeah, I don't think they should remake it, but like if somebody else wants to, maybe. But yeah, it's a real like diamond in the rough. I would highly recommend checking it out. It also has a really good OP called Uninstall.
Never heard of this anime before. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd had a couple friends who'd been recommending it to me over the years, and I was happy to finally see that I liked it as much as they did.
It's always interesting when you find those weird, like, no, but this is actually really good kind of animes.
Yeah, it's always fun to stumble upon those. I have another one of those. I'll leave it for like next week, though. I'll talk about it next week. It's one of the best things ever.
Okay, I've been, for whatever reason, I fired Diablo 3 back up again. And since I've been away, they added a new character called the Necromancer, and that's who I rocked in Diablo 2. So I started my Necromancer, got into level 70 very quickly, and then just been like grinding out the adventure mode, getting like better and better gear. Like I'm on like difficulty level Torment 1 or 2, and I can definitely go to the next one because nothing can really kill me right now. But like the odd thing that I found with the Necromancer is he has this skill. One of his abilities is it will deal 50,000 % weapon damage to something. This means I can one-shot bosses, and I don't know why he has this skill. way too OP.
That seems very broken. Yeah, I don't know, man.
It is. Like I said, I'm in Torment. I just did the the hell things or whatever. You have to go into the certain hut and open the portals, and then you go in, and what it is it's a boss fight, but you face like 2 bosses, and they're even harder, and I can one-shot one of them, and it's got like a 1.5 minute cooldown. I don't know, that the ability is just broken, I think.
Weird.
Maybe you have to get to like Torment 15 because it goes way the fuck up there, but I don't know why he has that skill. It's just way too OP right now. Yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with that. Remade a Crusader.
Okay.
I just like that class. I think it's just kind of fun to play. I think I got her like the level 36 right now. I got so many things. Like, dude, I have like 150% XP gain. So like, I literally will do like 10 levels in an hour. No problem.
Why do you have that bonus? Is it just like a thing they're doing right now in the game, or is it like something you always have?
So like I played a ton before, so I have like a bunch of recipes unlocked for the blacksmith, and then like he has it's a set. It's like Cane something, and that one will give me like a 50% bonus. But the big one is like the very first boss, the Skeleton King. You can get a drop called what's it? Leroy's Crown, and what it does is it gives whatever you have socketed into it like a 96% increase. So I have a tier 10, whichever gem it is that gives you experience. So I put that in there, and it's just like, that's like a 60% or 90% like increase to like my XP. So like I'm over like 100% XP with all this shit and just like fucking chewing through levels. And you can keep that crown on and eventually just fade out the other gear.
Yeah.
All the way up to level 70 and be fine.
That's cool.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the thing is, if you were to start this game, you probably wouldn't get that right away. Like, say, for instance, Cat, you wouldn't get that. So you'd actually have to do it the hard way. But because I leveled up another character and I got lucky enough to finally find that and put the best gem I got into it, that like
gives yourself a little boost.
Yeah, I can like level up another character in like no time at all.
Yeah, which is helpful. That's nice.
Yeah, it is, because like, I mean, like, I've already done all this content. I don't want to keep playing as like my first character was the wizard. Like, I want to try somebody else, like the Crusader or the Witch Doctor, which I tried the Witch Doctor. I hate him. But other gaming news, Warzone has a new mode called Stimulus Solos. And what it did, Stimulus Solos, it's pretty funny. What they did is they took out the gulag, which is where if you died, you went in, you faced somebody on 1v1, and if you won, you got to come back. But in Stimulus Solos, the gulag's gone. But if you have enough money, $4,500, you will just automatically revive and you can parachute back in. You lose all your weapons though. But this is really fun because like you can have multiple deaths as long as you have that $4,500. And in this mode, it is easier to gain money faster. Like there's been instances where like in 15 seconds I already have the $4,500. So I'm like, so if I fuck up the next gunfight, you know, I can already come back. Thing is, unfortunately, you lose all your weapons and stuff. So like, it's pretty helpful to get your loadout drops. But then like, if it's late game and you die, now you're going against all these other guys who all have the loadout drops and all. You got this stupid pistol, and like you just hope you land on your body or land on somebody else's that died, and you can pick up their good weapons again. But
so how are we supposed to get $4,500 when the government's only giving us $1,200 stimulus checks?
Well, hey, I mean, apparently there may be a second round.
There's a second wave coming, apparently.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't think it'll happen. I'm not going to sit here and hope. Oh, I hope I get another $1,200 and then be sad when I don't get it.
That would require Mitch McConnell taking his thumb
too.
out of his asshole, so I don't know if that's going to happen, yeah.
That's true. He needs to suck it up. They approved all that shit for the corporations. They can approve a little bit for us.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some
now that
anime.
I've become political on our podcast.
Oh, God forbid.
Oh, God. Okay.
Let's talk about anime. Anime is never political, ever, except in Carol and Tuesday. Never. That's the only time. All right, Wave, listen to me. Episode 3. You are all... Wait, no, actually, it's called You All Are Soft. So... This episode started out really weird because it starts out with this male character who we have not seen before.
No.
Wait, we have seen her before this episode? I don't think we had. Mr.
Oh,
the
no,
Oki
not
guy?
this, no, not Mr. Oki. I was thinking about the other guy that you don't have named in the character sheet.
Oh, yeah. So Oki, he's reciting this like Buddhist sutra called the Heart Sutra. I looked up in this like pretty intense way with like this glass of water in front of him, and then like a drop of blood falls into the glass, and he says, "Ritsuko, I'm going to work." And it's just like cuts to the OP, and I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" No idea what's going on. We find out a little bit later what's going on, but yeah. So meanwhile, Minare has been fired from her job.
I can't believe how much turmoil he put her into. Like one day he'd be like, "Oh, you're fired, but maybe not. But oh, I think you're fired, but maybe not. But you're fired, okay?"
He seems like a real drama queen.
That's not cool. Yeah, I know. It's like I wouldn't want to live in that world. It would be so stressful. Like every week you're like, "Well, maybe I'm fired. I don't know."
And the worst part is, like, he tells her, like, "Oh, there's really nothing wrong with the way you went about waitressing. Like you were good with the customers. You never fucked up an order."
The line is, you need more out of your waitress than just always getting the orders right and gets along with the customers.
Yeah.
Oh,
what
I know.
the fuck?
And
you
I'm
just
like,
described
listen.
every restaurant's dream waitress.
Nobody wants a waitress who's like, "Let me think beyond that." They want them to think only of that because then they'll stay at that level and continue to be their waitress.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that is. Like, is he want her to have a PhD or something to work in his restaurant? That's just a little weird.
Well, he's like, "It's not part of my dream space. Like, you don't fit in my dream space."
Okay.
She has some theories about what that dream space is. Like, she goes to lunch with her coworker Chuya to like vent about all this, and he's like, "Yeah, the guy's always been kind of rude to you." And her theory is like, "Well, it's because he's gay." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "No, he's not only gay, he's like the handsy type." And her proof is that like on the restaurant wall, there's all these photos that the like restaurant like owner takes with celebrities who come. And so like in any of the photos where he's with a woman, he's like very polite, has his hands like either by his side or like behind his back. In all the photos with the guys, he has his hand like right near their ass or on their ass.
So there's two explanations. Either it's true, he's gay, or he's just so afraid of being taken inappropriately with the women that he's just like, "Let me just be way far away."
But the guy she's talking to, the chef, he's like, doesn't he say like,
Yeah.
"Is that why he keeps smacking my ass?"
Yeah, he's touched his butt in
he's
the kitchen a bunch of times. Yeah. It's very uncomfortable now.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like you didn't pick up on this until now. Okay.
Meanwhile, Minare is like really upset because like she pays attention to this like, horoscope writer named Ryuji Kagami in some magazine, and they had once said that like, "Oh, if you have terrible luck with men, you should have great luck in your career." But she's having a terrible time with both right now, so she feels betrayed. At the end of the night, Minare is drunk again as usual, and she's laying on a park bench complaining to Chuya about how awful her life has become. And she's like laying in this like sort of vulnerable position, and like she's kind of looking pathetic, but at the same time sort of looking sexy. Like I can understand why Chuya tries to make a move on her here. And he's like, "You could come stay at my place." And she does this.
Doesn't she have some short shorts on too?
Yeah, she has pretty short shorts
Yeah.
on. She's showing a lot of leg. She does this brief simulation in her mind of what life with Chuya would be like, and like it ends up somehow with her imagining him getting stabbed by a strange woman. He's like, "What?"
That's pretty good.
She gets up. She has this move where she stomps her foot to like sober up. So she does that, and she kind of goes to work on Chuya, like kind of corners him. She says like, "First of all, the way we met was like around a dish of curry, and I want our relationship to just stay round and platonic, like it's simple, like a dish of curry." And she is like, "Okay, that'll be fine for a little while." And then she's like, "I sleep in the nude too, so there's no way it could stay platonic between us." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I love sleeping in the nude. It's great." And she's like, "I was testing you, you fucking piece of shit. I don't sleep in the nude. I wear pajamas like a normal person." And so she starts calling him like a nude dude. And then like Zenra, which is like a fancy way of saying nude dude or something. Anyway, like she's like, before she leaves, she's like, "If I'm ever truly broke, I might reappear before you." and like runs home. That whole sequence was just like kind of brutal from Chuyu's point of view.
Yeah, I'm sure
she had total control of that situation.
I mean,
yeah.
She should.
She goes home. She like collapses in her front entrance, or what she thinks is her front entrance. She's thinking about the 260,000 yen of debt she has to pay in terms of like car payments and rent. And she only has 250,000 yen in savings, so she's short. And then the man from the beginning of the episode is like walking around. And when she realizes like there's some crazy guy in her apartment, she does some like jujitsu move, like it just fucking takes him down and like speed dials the police so fast that you know she's done this a lot of times before. And the police show up, and it turns out every time Minare goes home, like blasted out of her mind drunk, she winds up in this other dude's apartment, Oki, bawling and crying like he's like done something wrong to her, like he's her boyfriend. And every time he's carried her back up to her actual apartment and like neatly placed her shoes in the foyer, and like she had been so proud about how she was like the type of functional drunk that, you know,
this is good.
Went
this
home
is good.
and like put her shoes in like the thing. And he's like, she's like, fucking, her whole world is shattered by this. And he's like, the Oki guy's like, calm down. You're acting like you're Keanu Reeves. You just woke up to find out the Matrix isn't real. Like, I like they did that like
I feel
whole
like
reference.
it just like shattered her conception of herself, because she had this idea of herself as one thing, and now she's like, oh no.
Yeah.
She was like really proud that she was that kind of drunk. And then to realize she is the complete fucking opposite is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the police are just standing there like, yeah, lady, you're the one in the wrong here. Is pretty good.
They just like leave. Like, I've seen this before. But like once they leave, like Minare, like the last thing she says is like, she turns to Oki and she's like, do you need like a house sitter for your parents in the country? And he's like, get the fuck out of here. Absolutely not. Oh man. So at this point, Minare realizes it's kind of like a code red situation in her life. She calls up Mato, the radio producer guy, and asks to take the radio gig if he can only find like a place for her to sleep at this like radio station too, because she can't afford her rent. And he kind of agrees, and she shows up to work the next day with like a 20-kilo like rucksack on her back, like she's gonna hike a mountain. And he's like, what do you have in there?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, the entire paperback like manga glass mask, because that's an essential, and like a whole bunch of other things that I need to survive. And so Mato asks her, do you want to be a star in a show with your name on it? Which I guess in Japanese, that term is like kanburi bangumi. It's like a show with her name on it. And so it sounds really similar to this 80s band, which I had to look up, called Ingri Mongri, which she started thinking about and getting sidetracked. Their music sounded pretty dope, actually. There's a couple videos on YouTube. They were apparently pretty popular in like the late 80s.
That's interesting. I don't know. Her salary being sort of up in the air seemed not feasible to me.
Oh, yeah, when he just, like, deflects when she asks about the salary.
Yeah, because, like, I just don't think that would be... Like, she'd have some idea, surely.
Yeah.
Like, some percentage.
It's pretty sketchy that he wouldn't tell her at all. He basically tells her about, like, how they're part of this, like, radio league that broadcasts to all of Hokkaido. And that she shouldn't get any ideas about being a big celebrity because it's still just fucking radio and it's only reaching Hokkaido, not like the rest of Japan or anything. But yeah, he says the salary will depend on her performance based on like these listener surveys that they get back. And that's what the sponsors base their like money off of, like how much money they're going to give to the station.
I feel like that's such an easy scam.
Yeah.
Like just have people going around, like, you know, in Better Call Saul, where they submit a bunch of like reviews of this. Yeah, you know what scene I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of that. They could just like have send a bunch of reviews in. This is great. And then she gets a bunch of money.
Just have all your friends like fax these reviews into the office. Like, oh yeah, she's the best I've ever heard.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that may not be a foolproof way to determine someone's salary. It's just there's no way in real life that someone's salary is determined that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems ridiculous for sure. Like there should be at least some kind of base salary and then like bonuses for listenership, I would see. But
yes, yeah, that's a good way to.
Mato kind of like hits on her again, kind of, when he compares her to that comedian, Sissel Kome or whatever her name is. And like, because Minare is like, why are you asking me to do this if you're not even going to tell me about the salary and all this stuff? And like, there's also that female assistant Mizuho who's like, yeah, I guess he is kind of hitting on you in some sense, because she asks her like, is he hitting on me? But yeah, apparently like her skill set is just very similar to this comedian. That's why he's so interested. So she asks what day she's going to have to work. And this is when she finds out that she's got a nightly show, but it's at like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
She's
more like a morning show.
Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, you're going to have to find a sponsor for the show. She's like, what sponsor is going to back a 3:30 a.m. show? It's more of like a radio transmission test of the fucking like show that anyone's actually going to listen to. And he's like, well, you're going to have to do it. And so luckily, Mizuho, that assistant girl, like she offers to let Minare stay at her apartment instead of in like a storage room at the radio station with no heat, which is a big upgrade. And they talk about the radio station a bit. They talk about how they have all these fax machines still, because like one, it's Japan, and two, like the older listeners still like to like fax in requests to the radio station for like songs.
I don't think I've ever had to fax anything.
I have at a law office. Like, so law offices still use fax machines like pretty widely until at least a few years ago. Faxing stuff back and forth between like the office and like court is like a common thing, but then courts, as I was working at a law office, courts started moving towards computers, finally.
Yeah.
But it took a long time. And so, yeah, so Japan is still on that shit, though. Japan is crazy with fax machines. And yeah, we find out Mizuho, she worked at like a community radio station, and so she's really happy to be working at MRS, which is like the radio station that they're going to work at, because it's like the equipment is so much nicer than like a community radio place. But she also learned at the community radio station that radio has a lot of power to reach people, and that's why she likes it so much. Like, even if you have just like a tiny little podcast called Nerdom and Other Nonsense, people could still hear it all over the world. So it's pretty cool. And so Mizuho also says that radio isn't as harsh as like Mato, the producer, made it sound. Like he had said like, if you have 8 seconds of silence, I'll lose my job. And she's like, nah, we would probably just have like a meeting with the staff. And she said that like the radio audience is actually really forgiving, because when hosts make a mistake once in a while, they typically get like messages of encouragement rather than complaints. Which is like hilarious to me, actually. Like, that doesn't sound like something that would actually happen like here in the United States, but
yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a Japanese thing. I don't know if that's the same.
People just send in like, you suck, fuck you.
Exactly.
Like,
and they wouldn't send in a message. It would be on Twitter. They'd be like, you fucking suck, dude. And it would be instant.
That's true. It would be terrible commentary. You'd just be sitting there like, oh, like sad.
So Minare's like, that's going to change with me. I'm going to be the first host who gets real complaints that cause like destruction at the station. And like Mizuho like laughs her ass off at that. But I thought like the most important part was that Mizuho was really interested in Minare because of her whole original rant about like the boyfriend. And Mizuho's like, I've never had a boyfriend, but I want one. And I wish I could be as passionate as you are and all this stuff and as strong as you are. And Minare is just like, no, you should stay a virgin forever.
But that turned out badly. Yeah.
Guys are worthless.
Guys all suck. Yeah.
And so there was a cute moment between the two of them, and then they fall asleep like listening to this like Sound of the Tide radio show that is what was at the 3:30 slot. And it's like something that Mizuho just uses to fall asleep. Like, that's all she does. So I'm actually curious if there's like other people like Mizuho who are going to be like rudely awakened when Minare takes over this slot, and it's not just like something quiet that they can fall asleep to, but it's like her.
Yeah, because she's like, this goddamn guy! And they're like, what the fuck?
Exactly, right? It's going to be a rude awakening.
Oh, also, Mizuho has like a bunch of these like little tiny turtles.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet one of them.
Oh, they're adorable.
I bet one of them's named Syrup.
Syrup's back.
Like, there's going to be like plushies and stuff if this is a popular anime of these turtles.
Oh, little turtles. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, they're adorable.
Yeah, they're like miniature turtles, which is interesting. So,
yeah.
There was also that like little turtle scene when they were talking about like the Japanese FM league, and there's like 2 turtles that said it. It was just funny, like early on the episode. So yeah, this
You're
anime
trying
likes
to say
turtles.
she's slow.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's cute. It's a cute anime. I still am kind of fascinated with the art style with the circles in the eyes.
Yeah.
Every time I see it, I'm like, oh wow, that's really catches your eye.
Yeah, it definitely stands out and looks quite a bit different than other stuff that's on right now. So yeah, in a good way. I mean,
In a good way.
I don't think it looks perfect or anything, but it looks nice, and yeah, it's still really
Well, it's
interesting
different.
just to discover Minare as a character. She's so weird.
Yeah, she definitely is. But yes, let's move on to Sing Yesterday for me.
God, I have so much to say about this episode, but we'll get into it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Rikuo goes home from work abruptly, and Haru follows him, and she kind of like is pestering him about his relationship with Shinako, and is like, "Tell me more about my rival. Tell me, more about her," and ends up delaying him a lot, and they end up walking in the rain for a while, which,
Oh, no.
God forbid, we know that in Japan, everyone is made of paper. And if they're in the rain for more than 2 seconds, they'll die of pneumonia. Okay?
Oh, that was exactly what I said.
I know.
in my
It's like
notes.
they may as well have coated the streets with coronavirus when there's rain because, people are just dying. So it's that way in all anime, I swear to God.
It really is. Yeah.
It's like, oh, there was rain involved. Obviously, he's going to almost, go to the hospital. So, but basically, Rikuo is like, I'm not who you think I am. I can't be who you want me to be. And Haru is sort of like, it doesn't matter who, if you like me or not, and I don't have any demands on you, but I'd like it if you ended up, dating me or whatever, but I'm not going to push you. And I think it kind of reminds him how he was with Shinako, and so he's like, I get that.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
But I also think like that's such a weird way to start off on our relationship. Like, I don't need anything from you, but it would be nice if you fell in love with me. Like that. I think,
Yeah.
and she realizes this, I feel like, later in the episode when she realizes, like, I'm lying to myself. I totally have expectations of this guy. This is stupid that I wouldn't have expectations of him. Like, yeah, but like, even when I heard this early in the episode, I was like, that's so ridiculous. Like, that's not even a relationship if you don't demand anything from your partner or like your potential partner. Like, you're gonna want something from them in return for what you give to them. That's just how relationships work. So it just felt like she was lying to herself basically at that point. I felt like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so Haru comes to look for Rikuo again, and I guess he's been gone for 3 days, and so she's really surprised. And his coworker offers to tell Haru his phone number. And gives,
Yo, bro. Breaking bro code here.
I know. It's kind of like, ooh, that's questionable.
Especially since he's like
questionable.
seen him like turn her down like multiple times.
Yeah, he knows that he knows he has no business doing it. But meanwhile, Rikuo gets gifted friend by Shinako. Blah blah blah. Gets gifted food by his concerned friend Shinako, and he's still sick. So I was kind of, when I saw this scene, I was sort of like, "Oh no, Haru, you're falling down on your job as potential girlfriend."
Well,
Shinako's
yeah.
coming in and taking your thunder here. This is supposed to be your moment, and you're not doing it.
This is the part where I got like a little annoyed at Shinako and Rikuo both, I guess. Because like at the end of the second episode, they made this big deal about how like, all right, we're going to drop the pretense that we're friends anymore. Because like, especially like Shinako is like, I don't feel that way. I don't feel anything for Rikuo. I'm still hung up on my ex-boyfriend. So I'm relieved that we're going to drop this pretense about like pretending to be friends when he wants to be something more. Yet when he gets sick, she like immediately goes to his apartment to like care for him, and I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, you're
Yeah.
sending mixed as fuck signals to this
Some
guy.
bad
Right
It
now.
is a
mixed
mixed
signals.
signal. Yeah, but I also, you're right. It is. And even as she was walking home, she's like, I feel guilty. And I'm like, you should. Because you're confusing everyone, including yourself. So,
Yeah,
meanwhile, Haru tries to work up the courage to call and doesn't. And then when Rico finally does get better and go back to work, Haru is really happy, and she asks him to the movies, and he's like, all right.
So this whole time it's been bugging me what time period this is in, because like at one point in this episode she's using like a rotary phone, but then like you notice the stuff in the convenience stores and you're like, well, that's slightly modern. So I tried to figure out if these movie tickets were referencing something. The title tickets are Nanagoraz versus Hitodarani, Battle of the Southern Seas. But what I found was a post on my anime list forum by the user Gaposaurus. He said, oh, look at those cute little sneezes.
Okay.
Anyways, Gaposaurus, he said, for anyone wondering, the title is most likely a riff on Gezora, Ganimes, and Komoe Bas, Decisive Battle, Giant Monsters of the South Seas. It's also known as Space Amoeba and Yog, Monster from Space. It's a Toho Daikaiji film from 1970. We're not in the 1970s, so this is just like a...
So they're seeing like an old monster movie, basically.
Because like then she, like immediately right after, she's riding this moped, and I'm like, I don't think mopeds were that modern in 1970. So I don't know. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye out for clues.
Yeah, I don't know if they've I don't think they've ever told us like specifically what time period it is. I haven't really been paying close attention, but I'll definitely be on the lookout for it now. It doesn't feel modern though. It feels like it's like
a little older. Yeah, like I know what you mean. Maybe like 90s or something. Who knows?
Oh man, when did this manga come out?
Oh, I don't know. I can look it up.
I'm looking it up.
Fine, you look it up. I'm lazy.
1997.
Okay, so maybe it's 90s. That makes a lot more sense.
That would make sense, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right. Hey. I was like, maybe it's 90s, and I was right. Look at that. Anyway, I have to... Oh, also, it bugged me that as Shinako was going down and was like, I'm feeling guilty about this. She's like, oh... he reminds me of my dead boyfriend. And I was just like, no, now you're confusing yourself too. Now you're like, I'm just using him to substitute for my dead boyfriend and I'm going to lead him on. And I don't really want to date him. I'm just like, this is a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically then at work, Haru later gets asked questions about why she doesn't live with her family.
Yeah.
And we get this sort of scene where she's like, we try not to interfere with each other, and she kind of dodges the question.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. And then she says she needs to have different hours that Saturday or something because she needs to meet a new character. And she goes and meets with her mom and this boy. Well, this
Older
guy.
man.
So it seems like she's trying to get her married off or something. To me, that's what it felt like.
I thought it was her mom's new boyfriend, but then the guy was like her old teacher from middle school or something like that.
Yeah,
like it wasn't
I don't know
clear
what's going on
at all what was going on.
But it felt like they were all interviewing for something. Like she brought over dudes in the past, and like this is just another one that they're interviewing for something. That's what it felt like to me.
For me, I thought it was just like her mom has had a series of boyfriends. Like, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know. That's how it came off to me. And like this was the newest guy, and like especially since she wouldn't answer the bartender about like what her parents were like. I think she's a little bit self-conscious about how her mom potentially
but like
is
I said,
acting.
The creepy thing is this was like her old middle school teacher.
Yeah, that happens.
That is weird.
Like, what the fuck?
That would be weird, though. But no, you're right. Maybe it is. She's just dating around a lot, and that's just not. Well, maybe she had an issue in the past with one of her mom's boyfriends, and that's why she moved out. You never know.
Could be. Yeah.
It seems like there's some weirdness in this relationship for sure.
He raped her. I'm calling it.
Oh boy. Maybe he raped the crow.
Oh God.
Maybe the crow saved her. It pecked out his eye.
That would be pretty pog. Oh man.
So yeah, and then there's a scene where she's like, "Oh yeah, it's the first time I saw my mom in 3 months. What a neglectful daughter am I?" And I'm like, more like, what a neglectful mother is she? Like, come on now. And then later in the episode, Shinako gets sick, and so Riku comes over to care for her, just like, she did for him. She comments that she's not used to this. She's used to the reverse when she used to take care of her boyfriend before he died.
Mm-hmm. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, both of you get over it and just fucking date.
I know. And then there's just like constant references. The guy who died, the one I love. It's like, calm down, chill out.
So there's an interesting thing that he does when he makes her scrambled eggs, which is he puts them in. He basically just puts it in the scrambled egg mixture into boiling water and cooks it that way, which is something I'd known about, but I've never done before. But I do know he made a mistake because, like a poached egg, you're supposed to stir that water in a circle and get like a little whirlpool going so that it all stays in the middle. Otherwise, when it comes out and touches the sides, it sticks to it. Like this technique is used when you don't have like a non-stick skillet or pot. That's why it's like more specifically used to do it that way. And like I said, I've never had the scrambled eggs this way, but I heard they come out like really soft. Ooh. So,
well, if it's anything like when I just like throw some eggs into like ramen as it's cooking, like, yeah, they come out pretty soft that way.
That's interesting. I may try that. Take a video of it. Be like, watch me try to do this.
Yeah, because when you make a poached egg, you just drop the whole egg in there. But because you have the whirlpool, it all stays in the middle, and you get like a really solid poached egg. So like, you want to do the same thing with scrambled eggs. Otherwise, you just got scrambled eggs stuck to every fucking side of your goddamn pot.
I could see this being fun. I don't know. I may try it. We'll see.
It's very simple.
It sounds like it. It sounds like I'll either fuck up miserably and cuss the whole time, or it'll turn out great.
It's pretty hard to fuck it up.
Okay. Well, we'll see, I guess. But anyway, so when Riko goes over to Shinako's house, he ends up falling asleep and ends up missing the movie date. And Haru just like waits and waits and waits for him for forever. Mm-hmm.
She even gets hit on by some guys, and then she just completely ignores them. I'm like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Thank you.
They're just like, this girl seems weird and boring. Let's leave.
And then basically they end up meeting up when he's going home, and she's like waiting for him. And she tells the story at work later, but she was generally relieved, even though she should be pissed because she was worried something happened to him.
Mm-hmm. So, she gets pissed.
It's cute. Oh, well, she gets pissed later, but her first reaction was definitely worry rather than...
Yeah, she's like, okay, you're okay. And like he actually went to the theaters and still tried to find her.
Yeah.
Obviously, she wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And he shows up wet in the rain again.
Yeah, I like that. That was a nice touch because like that's something that I know some guys will do. Like when they feel they've done something really shitty, they will punish themselves with something stupid. So like they'll walk in the rain when they have like a fucking umbrella in their hands because they're like, I don't deserve to use this umbrella. I'm such a piece of shit.
It sounds like you're talking about yourself, Bcom.
I've definitely done things like that, especially when I was a teenager. I was like, I'm an idiot right now. I don't deserve whatever. I don't know. I'm going to walk 3 miles instead of like ride my bike. Just stupid. I like that. Like little things like that, like bring out characters to me. Like little moments like that make me really like identify with the person more so than just like
it makes them feel real.
Yeah, some like surreal monologue or some long monologue about how they feel. Like just seeing that, I was like, okay, I get this guy a little bit more.
In the next part where he flat out tells her what he did, you and I disagree, Bcom.
Okay, interesting, yeah.
You think he should have told a white lie. I, on the other hand, do not, because in these shows, he tells her a lie, and then she finds out the truth later. Probably something Shinako says, like, oh, for whatever reason, in this conversation they have, she says, oh, yeah, he was taking care of me that day because I was sick. And then she gets mad, and I'm just like, thank you. Let's get this done. Let's get this out of the way now.
I just know that, like, Haru hearing that he was at fucking Shinaku's apartment when they were supposed to be on their date is like literally the worst thing he could tell her. Like, or he basically just framed it in the worst way possible.
It would be worse when she finds out fucking 3 days later.
I mean,
but it's just she just doesn't want to know about it right now. Like, she wants something specific in her mind, and it's gonna hurt her feelings.
Like, he could have not lied. He could have just withheld the truth. Like, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? She's already over it by the end of the episode, and I'm just like...
That's the way it should be, yeah.
Thank you.
But basically, she yelled at the middle of the street, like, you could have at least kept your promise. And Riko hears her and runs out in the street, and they stand there in black traffic, and people are like, what the fuck?
Dude, before that van fucking honked, I'm like, you guys are blocking traffic. Get
I know,
out the
I'm like,
way.
what the fuck you doing? I'm sitting there like, what the hell? I totally got that, too.
Awesome.
And then Haru was just like, let me tell you about myself, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, you know, it was cute. It was a cute moment at the very end.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things I noticed this episode about Haru was like the way that she talked with her coworker about her parents versus the way she talked with Rikuo in a brief conversation about her parents really shows you like how fake she is being with him a lot of the time, because as we said before, with her coworker, she's very guarded about her parents. She doesn't really reveal anything about them. She doesn't want to tell. And then when she's with Rikuo, he brings up her parents, and she's like, "Oh, let's not get into that. That's part of my like mysterious nature that you have to find out." Like she's like just being so playful with him and like trying to make what is like obviously that's something that's kind of uncomfortable for her be this mysterious thing that's like cool about her that he'll have to unravel, because she's trying to put on this front that she's more interesting than she really is when she's totally not, probably. That's probably why she has a fucking crow as well. Like it just makes me feel like everything about Haru is like a little bit fake and a little bit of like a playful like act that she's putting on. And so I liked that adding to her character, like the way that they showed us those two different conversations, how different they were when it's with the boy she likes and when it's with somebody she just works with.
But, yeah, no, it was a really good episode. And then let's talk about another really good episode.
Sure.
Because I'm excited for this next one. I had a lot of fun with it.
All right.
You talking about my next life as a villainess?
Ooh,
yes. Yes.
All right, let's get into episode 3. Met's a beautiful brother and sister. Katarina gets invited to a tea party hosted by Girordo and Alan. Girordo sounds like a name from JoJo.
Yeah, it kind of does. Did you notice? I never noticed the OP. Like, I guess I didn't pay attention to it very much the first time it played or something. But when the OP song ends, she's like happily holding hands with another girl on the beach.
Yes.
And I'm like, is this a clue? Are they basically saying the only way to end the harem curse is to have like a same-sex pair? Like she should end up with one of these girls?
Yes.
Like, is that what they're implying here? I wasn't quite sure. Is that what you think?
Well, so you know how we get those charts from like I think it's like AnyTrends or whatever.net about like the top shows.
I posted this one in our Discord.
Yeah, Leo posted the one that was like the top ships of the season, like romantic ships, and like her and the girls in this show are like the number 1 and 2 ships. So like
number 1 and 2. They had
happening.
7 of the fucking top 10 spots, I think.
Yeah, like it was funny because
really,
it was like her and the girls first, and then her and all the guy characters after that.
It's an entertaining show for sure. Like it's a really fun show, and for what it is, especially.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She's also kind of missing manga, so she's been reading like romance novels, and she's just like wants to really talk to somebody about it, like how we do with anime. So she's thinking this tea party might be give her the opportunity to talk to somebody about it.
Right.
And so the tea party begins. Katarina, like usual, eats and drinks so much that she has to go to the bathroom. And then, like, on her way, she runs into a dog that, like, chases her up a tree. And then suddenly under the tree, she sees, like, a white-haired and red-eyed girl getting bullied by some kids. They're just making fun of her for being albino, basically. But then suddenly her, like, bladder's basically at her limit, so she jumps on the tree, and it just scares the kids off. And then she, like, actually gets a good look at the girl, and she's like, "Oh, wow, you're actually very pretty." But then her bladder's like, "We gotta go now," so she runs away.
But it comes off to that girl like this big romantic savior moment, which it was just like her needing to pee and getting chased up a tree by the dog, but it comes off like, oh, she's gaining another member of her harem just by accident.
Yep. Yeah, and it's like basically she's the prince in this situation, saving the damsel in distress. Of course, Katarina goes right back to eating more desserts. The white-haired girl shows up. Her name's Sophia, and she kind of just like asking her about like, what was that earlier? Again, Katarina is just like totally enamored by her beauty, and she's like gets caught up in her imagination and recites like a line from the novel she's been reading. But Sophia recognizes the line, and so of course the two hit it off. They find out they have the same interests in romance novels. They're talking away, but then the party suddenly ends, but Katarina manages to invite Sophia over so they can keep talking more about books. And Sophia comes over and she brings her older brother Nicole with her. Nicole, yeah, that's right. Katarina recognizes him as another route in the game, but she never did that route. All the information she has is she can only go on by what her friend told her who did it. Yeah, so they discuss the book, and when it's time to go, Sophia asks, does she find her creepy? And she's like, because I have the hair of an old person and my eyes are blood red. But Katarina's like, in fucking her fashion, she's like, no, your hair is soft as silk and your eyes shine like they're rubies. And just goddamn, Katarina is fucking killing it with the ladies in this game.
Oh, I know. She's
show.
just like instant love. You can just see it on her face. Like, yes, now I will follow you anywhere.
It is. Oh yeah, Katarina is something.
Yeah.
So Katarina eventually visits Sophia's house so they can talk more, and so that she can also borrow some romance novels from her. And just before she leaves, with her stack of books, Sophia's like, oh shit, I forgot the one I really wanted you to read. So she runs off to go get it from her room, which leaves Katarina, Keith, and Nicole alone. Keith is her younger adopted brother or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like, there's this weird... Nicole is not good with talking. His talk's always really awkward or something like that. But I guess he does have like a very devilish smile.
Yeah.
And like he shines it towards her and she's just like, holy shit, that's powerful. And then very abruptly, 7 years pass and it's Katarina's 15th birthday. She ends up dancing with like Gerardo, and it's like, she's apparently so dense she can't tell that he's like basically infatuated with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, I don't know. She just doesn't realize it. She also can't tell that the other guys also really like her too when she dances with them. But even so, her two friends, Mary and Sophia, seem to have a crush on her because they want to dance with her also. And like Mary actually learned the male part of the dance so she could dance with Katarina. And and apparently Sophia has been reading novels with Yuri themes in them.
Yeah.
So that's another big hint. Holy shit. I believe this episode to me was more or less just cut and dry, and it was really just to set up the new characters, Nicole and Sophia, and then just to get to the time skip at the end.
You're
but Kat,
right.
You sound like you really, really liked it.
Yeah, you're right that it was like pretty cut and dry. Like she conquers another one, like she has another love interest now, but or really two. But I just really like seeing her conquer individually, like each one. It's almost like a passive romance game. Like you are like watching it. You don't have to fight. You don't have to like try. You just see, the
it
success.
just comes so naturally to your character.
And you're just like, oh, this is fun. Like it's weird because last season with Bofuri, I hated that, and I'm enjoying it now. So I don't know. It was kind of a big jump to me, her just like changing to being 15 at the very end of the episode, though.
It felt abrupt, and it didn't feel like there was like a big event that led up to it. It just happened. It was like, okay, the prologue of the game is over. We're moving to the game now.
Yes,
it just happened really quickly. It was interesting.
Yeah, I think it was a good use of using your 3 episodes to set up your show. But there's another show we're going to get to later, which I think does it even fucking better.
Yeah, and like the only thing we didn't mention about Nicole is that I think the one thing that her friend told her about him is that he's a siscon. And so her getting close to what's her name, Sophia, it makes him like her a lot in his eyes because he loves his sister, and like this girl being so nice to his sister is going to endear him to her, and so that's
actually made his sister happy.
Yeah,
he's like, yes,
exactly. So yeah, that was funny. Yeah, so yeah, but I'm glad that they got the time skip. Like I want to say that like it was a little weird how it happened out of the blue, but I'm happy to see them all older now. It does seem like a little weird when you think about it that like things have sort of stayed exactly the same between them over the last 7 years. 7 years is a long time, but yeah, it's fine. That's just how the game would have been set up, and you have to think about it in terms of. Like, in the game, as the main heroine, you would only show up at this, like, Magic Academy part that's going to start next episode. You would find out about the backstory of people later from them talking to you in different routes. So all this stuff was supposed to be kind of glossed over till this point. But because she's the villain, she gets to know about it, and she gets to live through that part. But yeah,
and she can change things, so that'll
be
interesting.
Here you go, Kat. Here's that poll we were talking about with the couple slash ships of the week. As you can see, Katarina has number 1, and she has 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th place.
Oh my god!
Holy crap! The only other shows that are on this are Kyo and Toru in Fruits Basket, and Riko and Haru in
Good old Fruits
yesterday.
Basket. Good old fruits basket.
Dear
But yeah,
Lord.
no, they're hogging all of these date things. That's insane.
Oh wait, no,
She has
Kaguya and
so
Yuki are
many
on there.
love
Okay.
interests. Holy fuck.
That makes sense.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
This is the week 4 polls.
I didn't realize that she had so many love interests.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've met most of them
Wow.
now, but we haven't met Maria
Wow.
yet. Maria is apparently the main heroine of the game, so we'll meet her
Oh,
soon.
well. All right. That should be interesting too. Oh wait, what if the way that you break the curse is to date the main character Chan or whatever of the show?
Maria?
Yeah.
That would be a certain kind of like poetic justice.
It'll be interesting though, because like I feel like since she's not going to be the villain, it feels like other people are going to become the villains for her, and so it's going to be interesting how that plays out.
I don't agree with that.
Oh, you don't think so?
I don't think there's really going to be villains. It's just her that the protagonist is the situation she is in.
But
for the show, that's what it is.
At the same point, though, like all these people are falling in love with her, and at a certain point, some of them are going to want her to themselves, and so they're going to fight with each other. I would assume to be near her.
I doubt it ever becomes that serious.
Maybe not.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's talk about Gleipnir.
Gleipnir.
Episode 3, Elena.
Yes. Wait, doesn't Gleipnir to you sound like something slimy?
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, I was getting ready to say that's the sounds that's made when she crawls inside him.
Glopnir.
Oh man, Gleipnir. Yeah.
Gloopnir. Yeah. So
Jesus Christ.
this starts off with the vending machine dude at the beginning of the episode. He's like pointing his cell phone at one of those coins that they put into the vending machines, and his like cell phone camera cannot see it at all. So it basically just confirms that machines will not help him gather all these coins together that he wants. So that's why he has to use humans to search for them. And that's why he has to like contract them and give them powers and stuff. So Clair and Shuuichi also agree that they need to figure out what their limits are with this suit when they're controlling it together. So she matter-of-factly strips down to nothing to get inside of him because, like, why get her clothes fucking dirty? Shuuichi cannot handle this, though. So he compromises and he's like, all right, can you please wear your school swimsuit? At least. And so they do that, and they practice moving around a bit, and this is where Clair learns for sure that she can stop Shuichi's movements. Like when he's trying to reach for a cup or like a glass or something, she stops him because she has more control over it. And then Clair also decides after that, okay, once they've finished all that stuff, they need to use the suit's like sense of smell to see if they can track her sister Elena. Because Elena is like turned into a monster and like could probably tell them more about what's going on. And also she just really wants to talk to her sister because she doesn't really know what happened with her. All she knows is that she didn't see her sister kill their parents, but she came home like 6 months ago. Her house was destroyed, and like a monster that looked like her sister was standing next to her parents' corpses and stuff. So, yeah. And then like Shuichi's like, well, maybe she's got the wrong idea. But then they open this bag that has her sister's old school uniform in it, and they instantly smell, because like Claire's inside him too. They smell like this smell of blood and death and like murder like all over her clothes. And they're like, yeah, okay, maybe Elena did kill your parents. So they decide we're gonna go like stake out this train station near where Elena goes to school apparently, and they get some food at a nearby convenience store. And like Shuichi asks Clair, like, what are your plans, like, once we find Elena? And she's like, oh, I'm just going to ask her why you killed our parents and why you turned into a monster. And she's about to say something else, and she cuts herself off. And so one little detail is like, they're sitting outside this convenience store, that cute girl from the school, Nana, like, drives by and sees Shuichi with her and gets a little bit jealous and is, like, worried about him a bit. It kind of sucks for her because she clearly likes him, but he's not interested at the moment. So they stake out this fucking train station for like 3 days, and they've seen no indication of Elena. And Shuichi says aloud, like, I'll find her. And Claire's like, yeah, we'll get that slut together. Shuichi's like, wait, is she a slut? And Claire's like, I don't know. Also, I'm a virgin too. And I was like, oh my god, this is the clunkiest thing. I feel like they just really badly wanted to tell the audience that Claire is a virgin. And like, we're like, how can we fit that into this episode? I don't know. It's also like a quirky part of her, but it was just a weird way of getting to that. So they're about to give up and go like try their luck at this like shopping mall, and Shuichi's remembering that there's a movie he wanted to go see, and then Claire does this like really cutesy like a moe thing where she's like, well, as long as it's not like a scary movie, because I'm not good with those, and she's looking really cute. And then as she's doing that, the train arrives and Elena steps off of it. And as soon as she steps onto the platform, Shuichi like instantly transforms back into his suit because of the smell alone and like the fear that it puts into him. And Claire like spots her sister with her camera and gets inside of Shuichi to go confront her. And Claire's like, all right, my plan is I'm going to shoot her in the leg. We're going to take her out of commission, and then we can question her about everything. And Shuichi's kind of thrown off because it seems like Claire's like removed all of her emotions from the situation, and she's like unsettlingly calm about like shooting her sister. But like right as she's about to shoot the gun, he feels that like she's starting to cry and like she doesn't really want to do this, and so he takes her like aim and throws it off, and so it just hits like Elena's hat, and so Elena like instantly with this threat like transforms and like rematerializes as like a monster right behind them. But then when she realizes like that what the suit, like who did this, like who was in the suit, she stops and like transforms back into a human being and starts like crying. And then like she gets really panicked and about how he's going to realize that she has communication problems. And she's like, can we please go somewhere else? I know you want to kill me, but I want to go somewhere where it won't bother anybody. And it's like, okay, what is going on at that point? You're like so weirded out by like, and so confused about everything because you think she's supposed to be this evil monster, but she doesn't seem like it now. And so, yeah, Elena asks Shuichi, like, who's still in the suit with Claire, like, how did you find me? And she's like, I understand why you're trying to kill me. And you can tell that she's definitely met him before, even though he doesn't remember it at all. And she's like, it's my fault that you're in this form. And it's my fault that I got you wrapped up in all this because I was weak. And she's like, I don't mind if you kill me. And Claire feels like Elena is saying these words to her because like the way she's talking is like she knows who's in the suit. But she's talking to Shuichi. She's not talking to Claire. And so Claire says out loud, what are you talking about? And Elena's like, is there a girl inside your suit, Shuichi? She goes like all yandere, and it's like in the way that like Kana Hanazawa does this. She's done it in other parts too, where she like immediately flips the tone of her speech. It's so good.
It is interesting. It's almost like if you were talking to your girlfriend like from the waist up, and then suddenly you're like, is there a dude fucking you at this moment? Like if you
Exactly.
That's the way it reminded me of. You're just like, what? Okay.
Yeah. And like she just like screams for whoever's in the suit to get out. And she's like, that place belongs to me. And it's like, okay, so she was supposed to be inside the suit all along, I guess. I don't know. And that's where the episode cuts out. So it's just very interesting meeting with Claire's sister. It's a cool introduction of her character for sure. Because she's just so weird. Like she's so like on one hand she's like deadly and like obviously very dangerous, but on the other hand she feels so much remorse about whatever she did to put Shuichi in this situation. So yeah,
it's interesting.
I know you guys have questions. They never get answered.
Because there's like one comment that I saw that was like, the inhabitants of this planet are all good people. I'm sure they will find you. And I was like, what? What the fuck? That's weird.
Indeed.
Yeah. I don't
It
know.
only gets weirder.
Also, why is she obsessed with calorie mate?
Calorie mate?
What the fuck is this? Or whatever they call it.
In the show they call it like calorie block or whatever. I don't know. It was just a weird thing that she Like, first of all, she likes it when it's cold. Yeah.
And then she wants to heat it up if it's the maple flavor. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Look, I said you guys have questions and they're never going to get answers.
No, I mean, the answer to that question is they had a sponsorship from Calorie Mate. Well, actually, no, they didn't. Because they call it Calorie Block, so they didn't have a sponsorship from Calorie Mate.
It's weird. And then I was also like, she knows where her sister's school has been this whole fucking time. Mm-hmm. This whole time.
Yeah.
And she's never been? And like the police never were like, I wonder what happened. Like maybe we should ask the sister about it. Like there's so many, like, what the fuck?
That is really kind of weird and dumb. I don't know.
And then also amnesia. Really, this is what we're relying on for the story.
It doesn't have amnesia. Wait.
It is amnesia.
I don't think I can say this. Never mind.
Not.
Oh. He doesn't remember her, but she obviously knows him.
Yeah.
Fuck, I can't... Unless it's in the net... Fuck.
No, you can't say it.
Because it hasn't been said yet.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I just want to say, if you've noticed my lack of enthusiasm for this show... man...
I still think it's pretty interesting going forward. It's trashy, but it's fun trashy. And yeah, we'll see. I think it is. I have watched a couple episodes ahead, and it does get very weird. So I'm curious.
And I will say, don't take it too seriously, and then you could probably enjoy it. Which is what it sounds like you're doing.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I like to analyze stuff, but I'm sure once it does some really dumb shit, I'll yell about it, and we'll have a lot of fun.
All right.
All right. As we prepare to yell about more anime, let's take a break and hear from some of our fellow podcasters.
Yes. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm JD, your host of the Red Leaf Retrocast, your best location to learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. Our podcast has 4 shows for you to listen to between retro gaming, modern gaming, anime, and even wrestling. The Retro Gaming Cast covers discussion topics, and each episode we discuss retro games picked based on a decided theme for that episode, ranging from space all the way to console specials like the old handheld Game Boy. Our Modern Gaming Cast is monthly and covers video game titles that were released in that previous month. Each anime cast, we focus to review a retro anime each and every episode, like the original Mobile Suit Gundam to the racing hit Initial D. But that's not all. We also keep up with the seasonal shows, by occasionally doing impressions and reviews as well. Finally, our last show is about wrestling, where we keep the rising indie scene up to date, while also covering shows from the bigger promotions like Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WWE, so we cover it all. We also cover a retired wrestler every episode in what we call the Wrestler Spotlight, and are currently on a quest covering old WCW Thunder episodes from the late 90s, every cast. So if any one of those casts sound like something you'd like to check out, that's the Red Leaf Retrocast, Gaming, Anime, and Wrestling, found at iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and all your favorite podcasting sites. Also, you can learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. We can't wait to see you soon.
Hey. Do you like wrestling?
Whether it be in a bar, an arena, some weird place in Asia, or in a stadium?
Or the occasional penis plex?
Well, if any of these things might tickle your fancy, anywhere in between, from penises to wrestling, you can come and check out our podcast.
Our podcast name is Smack It Down. We talk all things WWE, New Japan, anything else in between.
I'm Jay Silver.
I'm Corey Gold.
And we look forward to you joining us.
Happy Rusev Day.
Happy Rusev Day indeed.
All right, and we're back. Okay, so we're back with Fruits Basket, episode 3.
Yeah!
Yeah! So, Yuki has a dream at the very beginning of this episode about his mom asking why it matters if he's a tool. And when he wakes up, he's like, it's obvious that's a nightmare. And he wonders why he dreamed that, because it's been a while, apparently, since he dreamed that dream. Ayame comes over to see Yuki, and he's like weird and He's
God.
Ayame.
He's
I do not like
Takahiro
this
Sakurai
guy.
being Takahiro Sakurai, basically. Like, yeah, that's the voice actor.
And when Yuki pushes Ayame off of him, he ends up ripping his own shirt. So Ayame sews it while Toru eats peaches. And Ayame does this thing where he adds like brotherly love or something to the back of the shirt. And Yuki's just like ice cold and like, no, you can't. Like, fuck you. It's kind of funny. But at the end of the encounter, Yuki's like, one day I will go to your brother's shop. I want to try to understand you a little bit better. And you can see him like trying to reach out subtly.
Yeah.
And Ayame is like, oh my God, yes. Like he's been waiting for this. But then when they go back the next week to actually see this shop, Yuki immediately regrets it because it turns out his brother sells like maid and nurse outfits. And when they go in, like Ayame is wearing this wedding dress. And it's actually for a client who is a man. And so you can see Yuki in the corner, like trying to struggle with this, like, but a man will wear it? What? And then I really like his shop assistant too, honestly.
Oh, yeah,
I think
she's
it's
cool.
Yeah, I think they're dating. It feels like they're dating.
They're very
the
close
show.
because, like, they basically say they compare the relationship that they have with the one that Yuki has with Toru, where they rely on each other. Like,
Are you talking about Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
That's right.
it's right in Ayame's character description. They're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I like that she is so comfortable with him because he's a very androgynous character.
She was like a breath of fresh air. Like he was driving me insane, but then she showed up, and I was like, all right,
She
this is
handles him
way
well.
better.
She
Oh, yeah.
handles him well, and like I like the portrayal of someone who is okay with an androgynous character like that. I think it's healthy and it is good for gender roles and such. Like, no, there's all kinds of relationships that can be had, and you know, it is a breath of fresh air in itself. Her whole character, her being attached to him, she really balances it out. And her being so interested in dressing up Toru, I'm like, is she a Yuri fan or something?
Could be.
But when she brings Toru to the back, it's clear that really she just wanted to give the brothers a chance to talk. So I liked that too. And Yuki talks here about how, like, basically his family sold him to the main house, sort of like a tool. Like, here, take this. Don't bother the rest of us. Let us have
Yeah.
more freedom.
And it was that point where I was like, it's like a miracle that he's starting to reach out to people again. When like his parents sold him off, like we know about his history, like to some extent with like Akito Soma and like how terrible that shit is. And so the fact that like he's finally coming around and starting to like reach out to Ayami and other people, like after
Is a big
everything they've
step.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big step. And Ayame thinks, like, I'm really no better than anyone else in our family, and I as good as sold you too. And he has this moment where he remembers Yuki reaching out to him for help and like him slapping it away as a teenager, and he just really regrets that. Yuki talks about how he wants to do his own thing, not what his parents suggest at these student teacher conferences coming up, and like Ayame's like, I'll go instead, you know. And Ayame talks about how he wanted to know that he could make something tangible that wouldn't exist except for him. He points out that like it's okay if Ayame and Yuki don't have a lot in common because they complement each other. It's a very cute little scene with the two of them for sure.
Yeah.
And then Toru comes out and they've dressed her up in this Lolita dress. It's very cute. Yuki kind of realizes in the corner, he's like, I have to be careful with my brother, though. He can really easily manipulate the situation and push me around. And I'm like, yep. And Yuki tries to flirt with Toru for a minute, and then his brother's like, oh, you're flirting with Toru. And it becomes this whole like, no, I'm not thing. That's kind of cute. And then there's a scene at the very end where like you see Ayame calling I'm blanking because it's been a minute since I covered this. Shigure. You see Ayame calling Shigure and telling him about like, oh, they came and it was great and blah, 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 and explaining how Yuki is really into Toru. And you can kind of see Shigure thinking like, oh, Kyo really likes Toru, Yuki really likes Toru, and like kind of sort of a troubled face, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this can only end well for one of these people type of thing. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. I don't know. It's another good episode from Fruits Basket. I don't know. I will never not like it, even if it is a little bit childish sometimes.
Yeah, so I went back and I watched the second half of season 1, which is like where we had dropped off. Like, I think I had stopped at episode 15, so I watched the rest of those episodes. And it's funny that I stopped at 15 because, like, literally episodes 16 and 17 are probably my favorite episodes of the show. So if I just kept going one more episode, I've seen that. It was where Arisa, you know, the blonde who's like a delinquent and friends with Toru, talks about her past and like how Toru's mom was such a mentor to her and like showed her that like she could live a life that wasn't just being a delinquent piece of crap all the time. Like she could calm down a little bit and she could be different. She could like fulfill herself in different ways. And that was so important. That was such a good episode, and how she and Toru became friends because Toru was so kind to her, despite Arisa being really bristly at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then like Hanajima, the other friend, had an arc as well, another 2-episode arc about like her wave abilities and how she got them and like how she had to learn to like live with people and control herself and how Toru helped with that. That was also really good. And then they introduced some other characters. There was like the tiger girl and the sheep boy and the monkey guy. All that stuff was interesting. And like, just, yeah, they finish off that season with Kyo's backstory, which I also thought was really good, with him like revealing his true form, and his past with like the martial arts teacher dude and all that stuff, who's like a father to him. And it really gave me more into like just like insight into like where he's coming from as a character, Kyo, and like what he's so hung up on. So all of that stuff was great coming into this season. And yeah, like this episode was just like another continuing episode of like Yuki reaching out to people, which like the whole reason he became the student council president or decided to do it was because when they were doing those introduction episodes of like Kisa, the little tiger girl, like in order to like get through to her, he had to like say like, yeah, I used to close myself off and not talk to anyone either, but I realized that I had to like try really hard to reach out to people to get over that, and it was better for me to do that. And like he changed her mind about all that stuff, and she started talking again, and like that's why he's still trying to follow that creed, like try to like reach out to people and not close himself in like he has been his entire life, because he sees what Toru's able to do with like helping others. And so yeah, it just all comes together. It's like it's really nicely written and paced at this point. Though I think the beginning of the season has been like it's been okay so far. Not as good as the end of last season, but I have expectations that it will get better as it goes.
It's a slow show anyway. I think it'll ramp up again, just like it did last season, sort of like to a crescendo. And it'll be more serious towards the end, and then it'll end lightheartedly, sort of like last season. And I think that's a good pace for it. It's a good way to present the show.
Yeah.
So I've definitely continued to enjoy it. I agree it's a little slow right now, but I think it'll get better, just like last season.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I just woke up from a nap. You guys ready for the next one?
Oh, fuck you, Leo.
So Konosuba season 3.
This is it's a basically
Princess Connector nap. Yeah, because in the opening, I know Bcom went the same way I did. You see Pecorine sleeping in a barn, and you're just like, this has to be a nod to Aqua.
Yeah, it's like 100% a nod. Like,
right?
Can't not be a nod. Yeah.
It has to be. That's so good. So Carol decides to follow Pecorine around to find out her weaknesses, and basically all she finds out is that she just can eat a whole bunch. And it's also kind of funny that the two thugs want to thank Pecorine for saving them, and then they like treat her to even more food, and like basically learn on that like they're just like super fans of Pecorine at this point. So that's pretty cool.
I want to say that I've become a fan because like when she just ordered like 10 extra large plates of fried rice. I
know. I was like, Jesus Christ, girl, you could not eat that all by yourself. That is not feasible.
And I was like, I want to go eat with this girl and just order 10 plates of fried rice. So ridiculous. I love it.
So Kokoro gets like a guild application. And while she's doing that, Yuki sees like this demon girl collapse on the street, and he just thinks she's hungry, so he just sets like a rice ball in front of her, and then just fucking walks away.
I was dying laughing at that. Like, this is why I like Yuki so much, because he's like so fucking dumb at the same time as being like a kind, like blumbering idiot. But yeah, he totally misreads this situation. It's so funny. And they don't address it for the rest of the episode. Like, we don't find out why that girl was dying or like what was happening to her.
I do know she does pop up in later episodes because I've seen screenshots.
Okay.
But
It's a good joke. It definitely is. You're just like, oh man.
Okay, so Kokoro and Yuki set out to find the other two, Carol and Pecorine, and they easily find like Pecorine at the restaurant, and Carol's also there because she's still spying on Pecorine. They eventually sit down for some food, and like Carol goes to order, but the owner's like, we're out of ingredients because Pecorine's basically ate everything. Like Carol's like pinching her cheeks and pulling on him, like, God damn it, this is your fault. But Pecorine knows that the restaurant has a secret menu, and they ask for that. And it's bug food. The food is bugs.
Well, I was
Much
like,
to
what
Carol's
am I
horror.
watching right now? Am I watching Food Wars? I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was like, why are we suddenly watching people eat bug gourmet food? What is this? I thought this was like a weird adventure show. Now we're eating food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get to what this show's about. But it's like the food, to describe some of it, it's like there's like caterpillars, and they're cut open like lobster tail or something like that is what it looked like to me. It was crazy. But of course, Carol's like, I'm not eating this. It's fucking bugs. But everybody tries it and they really like it. And they're like, oh, this is pretty good. And like, as Carol's like complaining, Pecorine just eventually stuffs it into her mouth. And then like, she's like, oh shit, this is actually kind of good. And then like the whole time the owner is just quietly behind the bar, leaning up against a post, smoking a fucking cigar or something like that. And it was just so funny to me for some reason. He's just like, yeah, I know it's good. Kokoro at the end of the meal asked the other two if they would like to join her guild. Pecorine is like, of course, very happy to join. And like Carol is like just super tsundere about the whole thing and just like walks out.
Yeah.
And then eventually, as Carol's leaving, she runs into some big boobed blonde lady who's like, it would be wonderful if somebody would cause some trouble. And like, just like the demon girl, that's all we learned about her this whole episode.
Yeah.
The next day, Pecorine has run out of money, but she gets offered a job by the tavern owner because he's impressed that she knew about the secret menu. And then, for whatever reason, 3 lollies show up and just do cute things for 60 seconds.
Okay, so one of these fucking girls, her name is Mimi, and she has like a rabbit ear hoodie, and then her shoes
their
also
names,
have rabbit
I wrote down their
ears.
names.
Yeah.
It's Misogi, Miyoka, and Mimi. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mimi is the one that I was annoyed at because like she actually reminds me a lot of this character from this really dumb anime called Million Arthur. I posted a picture of this other girl in the chat because like she has these like same like boxing gloves on and has like a ridiculous fucking hoodie, and it's just like a stupid character overall. So anyway, like I was just reminded of this dumb anime character when I saw this girl, and I was like, oh my god, this might be even more ridiculous looking.
Nice.
So Carol meets with her boss, and she's told not to try to assassinate Pecorine anymore and to instead observe her. And it's also some information is given that she has been given Princess Night powers, which
Whatever
is, I
that
guess,
is.
where her magic is. You know,
Okay.
she eventually goes to the tavern and finds Pecorine trying to feed one of the lollies a bug, which is kind of funny. And like she goes to tell Kokoro that she would join the guild and gets interrupted by like this asshole of a guy kicking down the door and yelling about, "Is this the place feeding people bugs?"
This guy also has the
guy's-
biggest breasts in the whole
Once
show.
again reminds me of Food Wars. I was like, are we watching Food Wars?
Oh, this part of
dude-
the episode was definitely Food Wars. Like, yeah.
Yes.
So the guy's a huge asshole and is apparently working for a rival tavern. He injures the owner's hand, and Pecorine has to make a dish that satisfies him. Fortunately, her traveling, she has learned how to cook very, very well, and everybody's very impressed by her skills. She gives the food to the man, and Carol says there's still one more thing to add. She apparently has God's tongue, which is from
Food Wars.
and could tell it needs just a drop of juice from this lemon-looking fruit. that she picks up from the table, which if you remember, she bit into one of those earlier after eating the bugs, and she was like, So anyways, the asshole guy is like completely blown away and can't keep himself from like scarfing down all the food. And he's like trying to say the food isn't good enough, but he can't because eventually like chibi angels descend and pull his soul from his body. And his soul's like, this food is good. If only everybody's clothes had exploded off, would this have been Food Wars 100%? But then he kind of finally comes back to his senses and he like slams the plate on the ground, and Pecorine's like, yo, bad boys who waste food need to be punished, and she just fucking kicks his ass out the fucking door.
She does too. It's pretty
The show,
pretty badass.
Yeah, the show wraps up and they finally create their guild, the Gourmet Guild. Their objective as a guild is to seek out every ingredient and cuisine in the world.
Sign me up.
There you go,
Okay.
Kat. This is what this is about.
I want to be in
man.
the guild.
Okay, so I like the show more now because I'm hoping for this kind of a thing rather than some other stupid shit.
Like
Yeah.
adventure stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like the creators of this show are 100% aware of the 3-episode rule that generally most people follow when trying to pick out anime. I think they use all 3 of their episodes to get across of what this show is going to do, what it can do, and what it will do.
Yeah.
And I just think these are some of the 3 best first episodes I've seen executed in a while. And I'm impressed by it.
I was impressed by the change in overall theme of the anime as a whole. That's pretty rare that on the 3rd episode they're suddenly like, and now we're revealing what this anime is about. So that was interesting to me.
Yeah, and coming from the Konosuba creator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're expecting the adventure and the comedy, but then we find out by the end of the 3rd episode that like there's still some adventure and definitely the comedy, but it's going to be about food this time.
Yeah, we're going to
Just like-
chill and eat
And
good
that's
food.
fine. Like I will like it better because of that. So that's
Do
good
you
for
think
me.
all the food's going to be like weird, strange stuff like the bugs
I
and
hope
stuff?
so. I hope
Yeah.
so. It'll be fun to talk
Reminds
about.
me a little bit of the manga. I think it's called Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi, where
Oh yes, I loved that.
yeah, where they have to go into the dungeons and they find all these like weird ingredients from monsters that they're able to cook into like delicious meals. So I wonder if they'll pull like a little bit of that idea into this show, like where they find weird ingredients but they make them great because like the way they cook them, or they find like
I
ways
know
to
I've
cook
read
them.
that manga, but that never got made into an anime, right? That really should
Surprisingly
be.
not yet. It should because it's good. Like yeah,
It will be so popular when they do.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked they haven't yet.
it is. It seems weird that it hasn't gotten an anime yet. And I feel like it's only a matter of time or something because
You just wait when that show comes out. I will put my foot down that we're fucking covering that show.
Oh yeah, I mean I would be happy
no,
to.
We have
Dungeon
covered
Meshi,
other cooking shows.
motherfuckers.
What was the one?
Restaurant
like
to
food?
Another World. We
Yeah,
covered.
food from
Yes.
another world or something.
That was a
Yotsuno
really fun one.
Biori was kind of a food show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're really fun and quaint. So I don't know. Hopefully we get that. But I'm excited we get this one because it's definitely not what I expected. I got into the season thinking this show would be the one I least enjoyed that we covered. So
Well,
it's-
I'm so
it's
glad
made
you
me
two
more
are excited
hopeful.
for my lock.
yeah.
If only you could be the same, Leo. If only you could be the same.
If only you could change your mind about things and keep an open mind.
Oh, what'd you lock? Oh, you did Kaguya-sama.
Yeah, it's great.
That was yours.
It's fucking great.
It's well animated though. I will say that. Like the opening that they did, it's a new opening, right?
Oh, the Kaguya opening.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy, daddy, do. Oh, yeah, it's pretty great.
It always impresses me when there's multiple openings in a show where like they do the animation differently, or it's just like, oh wow, you guys put a lot of extra work into this that you didn't have to do. Like, damn.
Well,
Yeah.
the first season was so popular that like it would be a disservice if they weren't like, all right, we're doubling down, we're adding a couple other people to the staff. We know we can make the money on this back. You know, it'd be a shame if they
It
didn't.
bugs me though that Funimation has this in the U.S., not
Yeah,
Verve, because
Crunchyroll
Verve had the first
Crunchyroll
one.
had it the first season, and then Funimation
Yes.
like bought it out or whatever.
I know, and first of all, it bothers me because now it's a split season. So now you have to watch one season on one platform and the other season on the other.
Both seasons are on Funimation.
Oh yeah,
does
Funimation does have
have
both
it?
seasons now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it just bothers me because Funimation doesn't treat their subs nearly as well
That's true.
as Verve and Crunchyroll. I just don't think they take the same care with them. I think that they have a tendency to fuck up subtitles. It's not their strong suit. Their strong suit is a dub. That their whole branch was originally a dubbing branch.
Yeah, their thing is kind of doing dubs. But
Yeah, so whenever they have a sub, they kind of neglect it. And I'm just sort of like, well, then don't fucking buy them if you're not going to take care of them. Like, just give them to other people who actually care.
Which is the show that, like, the subtitles kept going from, like, top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom.
Oh, that was Kakushigoto. Yeah. Like that
that was awful.
Yeah, and that's what happens when Funimation gets subs. And I'm just sort of like, please don't, if you're not going to fix your issues. Please just don't buy subs, you know?
I mean, I still recommend, obviously, like subbing to Funimation for all the shows that they have. But if you want good subs,
they
for
have
Kaguya,
so many.
There are fan sub groups. There's a fan sub group called GJM that is doing really good fan subs for Kaguya, and that is how I am usually watching, because I usually watch the episode twice, like maybe once when it comes out, and then several days later when they finally put the fan subs out. And the fan subs add a lot because they do all the typesetting stuff. Of like all the signs and like lists and things on screen that like they do a lot of that in Kaguya, so the poor fan subbers are like working themselves to death to get the episodes out with like the proper typesetting. But it's something that Funimation would never take the time to do, so yeah, it's nice.
It's definitely nice.
Let's talk about this episode. I just want to say one thing right off the bat about episode 3. I wanted to see if you guys get the same feeling. Do you think that season 1 should have ended after, like, this episode? Like, because they do this whole thing about, like, where they basically say goodbye to the student council room and, like, the first year ends.
Wait, didn't season 1 end on the fireworks episode?
Did. Well, it ended on, like, the first half of the episode was the fireworks, and then they, like, did a whole second half of the episode that was just, like, slice of life shenanigans again. And it felt like a non-ending, and we complained about it at the time.
I felt like if they had switched those two, it would have been better.
I
like
also
the second
felt that
half
way,
was the fireworks thing, then I probably would have been fine.
Like, I guess chronologically it wouldn't have worked. It's just like, I was looking at this episode and I was like, this is such a perfect place for season 1 to end, except that season 1 would have had to have been 15 episodes for them to do that, or they would have had to cut something to get here. But it's just like, it's kind of like a victim of like airing on a TV time schedule where you have to put out 12 episodes. It would have been a great way
to end that first episode, because then it would have been like, all right, they really have to do a season 2 now.
Exactly, yeah. But you get like this sense of closure that's like, oh, they've done a whole year. I mean, I guess we'll get into it, but like, I just feel like, man, this is where season 1 really should have ended. Like, and now watching both seasons, if you watch both seasons at the same time, it doesn't matter as much, like as like when we were watching it as it was airing, and then having to wait. But yeah,
that's true.
So, anyways, episode 3, Weebs Don't Dream of Bunny Girl Chica.
Yeah. Just like a moon festival. There's a full moon festival, right? And Miyuki's like super excited because he's an astronomy nerd, and he's like booked the school rooftop, gotten permission for them to go look at the moonlit sky. But yeah, he puts these bunny ears on Chica, and you're like, what? Like, as Americans, we're like, what is this? But like, then he starts thinking about like Sailor Moon for a second, and like how she's named Usagi, and you're like, yeah, there must be something with rabbits and the moon in Japanese folklore, and there totally is. And I guess it originated in China, but there's like this whole idea of like the moon rabbit in like Far East folklore. You know how we see like the man in the moon, like there's like a face on the moon. That's like a whole thing. Yeah. They have this like moon rabbit who makes like rice cakes up there. Which kind of makes sense why like Chica is making like mochi soup.
The moon rabbits are attacking.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they get on this roof, and Kaguya is thinking to herself that like, she doesn't understand what's so great about the full moon, but like this atmosphere is really nice, and if she could only get Miyuki on his own, she could attack him. And so she has to get rid of Chica, so she just like tells her to go cook the mochi they've bought. And Chica's like, yeah, I'm a function over form, mochi over moon kind of gal, and she like runs off to like cook the mochi.
Which, like, hey, I don't blame her. When I had fresh mochi, that was so good. I would totally, I understand. I need the recipe to make fresh mochi.
Mm-hmm. Pound a bunch of rice. Oh, yeah, it'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Yu follows her because he's cold and he wants to stay by the stove for the mochi. So like Kaguya gets alone like she wanted. And she's like, how shall I attack? And she imagines herself like faking a sneeze and like pretending that she didn't bring her coat and then like making the president like squirm about all this. In reality, he's like a step ahead. He like is dropping his coat onto her shoulders as she's thinking about this, and like handing her a cup of like hot tea in a thermos. He was like already prepared for all this bullshit she was going to try and pull.
I don't know, but he's just out of it though, like staring at the moon. So it's not that he prepared at all. It's just like he doesn't give a fuck, and so he's able to be more romantic, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's that's the real answer. Like he's not phased because he's just like so engrossed by the moon and the night sky that he's just not worrying about how he's coming off at all or even thinking about it. Like she hands the thermos back to him and it's like a total indirect kiss that he should panic about, but he just doesn't care. And like I love how all of this is just like throwing Kaguya off, and she's like making like squealing noises at everything he does. And so she moves on to her second plan of attack, which is like she's going to pretend that she's interested in his stupid astronomy hobby and like just say a bunch of stuff. And so she's like, oh yeah, and then I'll let my body like drift into his and he'll get all flustered. And so she asks him like, what is this like square of Pegasus you're talking about? And he like throws his hand around her shoulder, like pulls her like in tight and is like, let me tell you about this square of Pegasus. And like all these stupid stars. And she's just like fucking freaking out and basically melting. And then, like, he gets even more excited and drags her back so they're laying flat on the ground together. And he's pointing at the stars in, like, this summer triangle constellations. It's like, oh, my God. And just Kaguya's just, like, squealing in protest. It's ridiculous. Things finally get a little bit more serious when, like, Miyuki's, like, finally finishing up explaining about the story of, like, Orihime and Vega, which is, like, very romantic constellation story. And then he asks Kaguya if she has a close connection to the moon because of the story of Princess Kaguya. And Kaguya explains, like, no, I hate the moon because, like, Princess Kaguya, like, returned to the moon and left the love of her life behind. And I hate that. And Miyuki's like, oh, that's fair, but I think that the decision that Princess Kaguya made is kind of a bit misunderstood. Like, she left behind an elixir of immortality for the man that she loved. And the man, like, sort of took this as, like, oh, yeah, she wants me to live on forever. She's thinking about me. But also, I don't want to live without her, so I'm going to burn this elixir and let myself die. But Miyuki's like, no, that dude is like a fucking idiot. The princess was actually, like, always kind of a little bit selfish. She's always thinking about herself. She rejected many suitors. What she was probably trying to convey is that she wanted him to survive as long as it took for him to see her again. Even if it was hopeless, like even if he could never find a way to get to the moon, she wanted the chance that he could survive and find her because that's what she wanted. She was thinking about herself. And Miyuki says, like, I would never let the princess go. I would have gone to the moon and brought her back. And Kaguya's ears are like glowing bright red with embarrassment about how romantic this is. And she's like, no, stop, please. Like, it's so good.
It is very cute. Like, it's kind of a weird interpretation of the story, because I read up on this story after to sort of look and compare them. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely cute and romantic, and for what they're trying to do with the show, it makes sense.
Yeah. I love the way she just, like, basically melts into dust, like thinking about all this stuff and how straightforward he's being. And she just can't take it anymore. She drops all of her act and starts, like, yelling at Miyuki, like, do you even understand, like, what you're saying? Like, how can you say these things with such a straight face? And then, like, apparently this section ends, like, Shirogane actually loses, technically, this battle because he realizes how embarrassing what he was doing was after the fact and, like, almost dies out of embarrassment. But I think they both kind of lost that one, to be fair. So, yeah. So, yeah, the second part of the episode, they're cleaning out the student council room because it's been a year and they're being, like, dissolved at this point. Because there's a new student council that gets selected for the new year. And Chika starts pulling out all these things from the closets that, like, reminds them of all, like, the shenanigans they got up to. Like, the playing cards and, like, the forbidden word game, like, little notes. And the cat ear headband, which she puts on Miyuki's head. And, like, Kaguya almost dies because it's so cute.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, all right, we get it.
Well, I liked when you got upset because like they start mentioning things that like he wasn't there for because he only got there like 6 months into like the council. But he does recognize that newspaper fan that Chica beat the shit out of him with when he told her chest was big and it would get in the way. And so the animators go all out again when Chica just starts smacking the shit out of him.
I know I've said this in season 1, but whenever Kaguya and Miyuki are on screen, I hate it. But when it's anybody else, I enjoy it.
It is an odd thing for sure. I'm kind of like, why do you hate them together so much? Calm down.
Because they're so fucking toxic.
They're so toxic.
And like, who wants to have a relationship like that? For God's sake.
It's funny though. I don't know. It's just so funny to watch them just battle back and forth and like.
It's
lose.
not funny. It hurts.
I thought a lot of parts in season 1 it wasn't funny, but I've been really enjoying it so far this season. Maybe because I know
the
I don't
show
know.
is absolutely no different to me from season 1.
It's not that much different. It's somewhat more of the same. Which is why I feel like this should have been part of season 1, because like there's a very clear break at the end of this episode. It feels like, but back to the Chica thing. It was hilarious how long that went on, and in the background she starts like jumping to get more power to smack him in the head as he's like lying dead on the fucking floor. It's like, please stop, Chica, and she's like breathing hard and sweating. By the end of it, she can't even hit him anymore. But yeah, they also find like a secret room that was apparently used by like an underground student movement like years ago, just before they leave, and they don't even say what's in it, so you're like, oh, that's mysterious. And they go to finally leave, and then there's like a kind of sweet moment where like the doors close and like Chica looks back and she starts breaking down crying, and Kaguya's like, oh, come on, that's unfair, Chica, and she starts crying too, and like both of the guys like bow towards the student council room and like thank it basically for like all the stuff it gave to them. It was sweet. That would have been a good way to end season 1 though. Like
this kills me with people who are like, I miss high school and all my friends. I'm like, I fucking love that I don't miss high school, and yeah, I still talk to my friends, you dumbasses.
Some people had good experiences in high school, Leo. It does happen occasionally. A lot of people
sucks.
Don't. But
bad.
Yeah, but I'm like, as much as school sucked, a lot of times like clubs were like one of the good things about school though. Like your times in clubs and like different after school activities like sports and shit. Like I had really good times with that stuff in high school. So
see, we just went and partied.
I don't know. I can understand why they felt this way, but yeah, they get to like a family restaurant to finally just like blow off some steam and like celebrate being done with all of it. And like Miyuki takes off his blazer and his thing that's called like an aiguillette, this like French like tassel thing that he wears on his uniform because he's the president, and he's like, oh that thing was heavy. So yeah, they wonder who might follow them as the new members of the student council, because like the work sucks, but it has its merits. Like we know, like you get a letter of recommendation, all that shit. You can go to like any job you want, or any school you want.
Which is definitely a good thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And she does make a point, like it's almost unfair of him to want to do it a second year because someone else would get the opportunity to also get a letter of recommendation. So
yeah, and he already has his, so like he has no incentive to do it again. Like yeah. So Miyuki is asking like, are you going to run the election? And he's like, well, I don't think I would get any votes because the girls in my class cry when they make eye contact with me, so I'm not sure I'm like prime candidate. Chica imagines herself as president, and then the other three just start laughing at her. And she's like, I'm going to punch you in the face. And Kaguya realizes like she can't call Miyuki the prez anymore, or a kaicho. And so she has to figure out like what the fuck to call him. She doesn't want to say Shirogane-san because it seems too formal. She doesn't want to say Miyuki because it's like the first name connotation. It's too close. Hilariously, Chica just calls him Miyuki like 5 times in one sentence, like right after she says that. And then Yu has even shortened his name further to like a Mew. And Kaguya's like, you can't do that. And she wants to come up with a nickname for him, but she just can't. In the end, she just struggles and calls him Kaicho again. She just can't think of anything else. And Chica's like, man, things would turn out fine if Miyuki just became the president for another year, and like Kaguya's like, no, don't be selfish. It's a hard job, and he doesn't need to do it again. And so they're all walking home from the family restaurant, and Kaguya thinks to herself, well, maybe I could become the president. And then Miyuki would only have to be the vice president. And then you could be the treasurer again. And then, and I like how Chika like drifts into frame as she's thinking about who should be the secretary. And Kaguya's like, and then Kashiwagi could be my secretary. It'd be absolutely perfect. And like Chika kind of gets like upset in the background, even though she doesn't know what Kaguya is thinking about. It was just really funny the way they framed that. So yeah, Kaguya and Miyuki, they break off from the other two at the train station. They start walking home together. And as Miyuki is about to leave, Kaguya decides, like, she feels so uncomfortable calling him Shirogane-san. And she decides to just be honest for a second. She grabs his sleeve and says, can I please be selfish for once? I want you to be the president still. And he's like, he immediately whips into like Chad mode and pulls like a fucking paper out of his bag that's already signed, like the application for the student council. And he's like, I'll do exactly that. And she's like, what? He had planned this all out basically. But you find out, I like this in the last scene, like he goes to the advisor and he had filled out the form, but he had no intention of like actually submitting it unless Kaguya asked him like to do it, basically. So the only reason he's doing it is because Kaguya asked. And then at the end of the episode, there's like a brief moment where there's like a strange girl that we don't know who is staring at like the new like student council members required. Yeah, her name is Mika. We'll meet her next episode. Which is why it's like another thing. It's like, oh, they're introducing a new character. This is where the season should have ended. I don't know. It just felt like such a natural break.
I'm glad they didn't like extend it though. Like I'm glad they didn't try to fit it in a smaller number of episodes. I would have hated that. So
yeah, I agree.
You know, in the end, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. That was an adorable episode. I like that they're getting back to the romance a little bit more between Kaguya and Miyuki because I do like those parts. I think it's just adorable, even if it is like funny and ridiculous most of the time. And I'm really excited to meet the new girl and see what she adds to the dynamic of the club and the student council.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so our last show of the evening, B&A. I'm excited.
Woo.
Yes, episode
Good
3,
show.
Rhino Melancholy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Michiru wakes up and she's like, oh yeah. Okay, first of all, there's a big-ass explosion at the beginning of the episode, and it's almost like so bright that it's like a nuclear light or something. Like the night becomes day.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And you get these flashbacks of when Miyuki was like an actual person, or Michiru, sorry. I'm getting all confused.
That's cool.
Michiru was an actual person. And her sort of changing a little bit after, I guess she used to be in basketball. She's in
nice jump shot too, by the way.
Oh yeah, because like she's doing basketball and then her like hands change and it's like a big deal. And you see, like, at first it wasn't so bad; it was just one part of her, and then it got worse and worse. And eventually, I guess her parents were like hiding her in a room, and she just left them in like a note, basically saying like I'm leaving, so I don't have to live in this room. Like, which I don't blame her, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then she wakes up and she's like, oh my God, and remembers where she is. And Okami catches her as she tries to run out and locks her in like what kind of looks like his library or his study.
There's also like the worst impression of a chicken, like a rooster calling. And like, I feel like you could just randomly go up to people and be like, give me your best impression of a rooster. And like, they would almost always 90% would be better than what was fucking delivered in this show.
That was pretty funny.
It was so bad.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Please tell me they did that intentionally. This is the only way I can forgive them.
Yeah, I would assume that. I think it came off like it was supposed to be kind of a joke, so I feel like it was intentional.
Yeah. I don't know. The mayor, whose name is also Barbara, and I think I'm going to call her Barbara. Mm-hmm. Basically comes in and is like, the medical center is threatened and like a truck full of Sylvester meds was blown up or whatever. Mm-hmm. or I can't. I think my autocorrect called that Sylvester.
Oh yeah, it's Sylvasta. Yeah,
Sylvasta or something. Yeah, stupid autocorrect. The mayor like yells at Okami to let Michiru out because he can tell that he has her locked in the study. Because she's like, help! And Michiru agrees to help find these bombs before they can destroy the medical center. Because she's like, hey, if they don't have the medical center, they probably can't cure me of this disease.
Yeah.
There's a scene of some scientists watching a camera shot of Michiru and like recognizing her from when she was human, which is interesting. They're like, it's her. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So
so that's some like heavy hinting that these doctors are somehow involved with Michiru turning into a Beastman.
Yeah.
They did something for sure.
This is where I got the whole idea that, like, especially since they're trying to hide evidence, basically, at one point in this episode, like, I think Sylvasta is, like, testing their shit on humans and trying to create Beastmen of their own or something like that. Or, like, so they can, like, sell maybe, like, beast enhancements to humans or something and make a bunch of money or whatever. Or create medicine.
And they're aliens.
Oh, maybe I don't know if they're aliens.
I don't think we've gotten to that yet.
After what we went through with Darling and the Franks, I'm not going to be surprised.
So now your default is they're aliens after Darling and the Franks. You're just like, no, they're all aliens. Fuck that. They're aliens.
Or they're underground, Moleman, Beastman. Yeah, you know, whatever.
Okay. Okay. Interesting strategy for sure. So I don't know. Michiru gets Okami to help her by making the case that she's also a beast man. That was kind of interesting. He's like, well, you're not wrong. And you see the place from earlier was actually the research area because it's not like totally clear at first. And he gets like one of the scientists gets called and told like, hey, that thing that just blew up, you better cover it up. And investigators come later to look at the explosion and accuse him of covering something up. And it's like, and when they try to take the guy in for questioning, he turns into a rhino and escapes. And then there's a hostage situation with the guy that was with the rhino dude, who's a chameleon, and Michiru. Michiru's like, how do I get out of this? Oh no. And tries to mimic that thing with her hands that she did before and is able to get away. Okami is hurt in all of this, but he's going to be all right. And I guess what they came up with after this whole conflict was that those guys were embezzling money.
Yeah, which
that's
feels
what
like
Barbara finds out. Yeah,
yeah, but that's not it though. Like you could tell there's something more. Yeah, and they even
seemed like
say
too
so.
much.
Yeah,
like it's a lot of work to go through just for that. So and Michiru points that out. It's definitely suspicious. There's something else going on. Mm-hmm. So after this whole conflict, which just seemed a little bit chaotic but was fun to watch, it was a well-animated conflict. It just was a lot happening at a very fast pace, at least to me. The mayor has, like, you find out that the mayor, Barbara, has this degree in genetics, and she promises to, like, research and help Michiru with her disease. And part of me was like, yay, and then part of me was like, oh no, she's the evil villain. We're going to find out at the end.
Yeah, I've been getting that feeling even since, like, the first episode. I was like, this character has the potential to be the evil one in the end.
Yeah, I'm just like, so you say you have a degree in genetics, and you're going to help her and take all kinds of samples, and I'm just like, this is suspicious. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, who knows? But I also I noticed the design of the main tower, that like medicine tower or whatever. It looked a lot like the tower in Promare in the sense that like the tower in Promare has this like big fucking long room that just juts out of the top of it. Where like the big honcho like sits up there at his desk, and in medicine like they have like a bunch of them that like jut out and then go up. It actually kind of looks like a trident or something. And when I thought of that, I was like, wait, is this tower gonna like blast off and be like a fucking weapon or something?
Jesus Christ.
Because it's Trigger, so your mind just goes everywhere. Like he's like,
and they did just finish Promare when they started working on this. Like they were showing like character sketches and all kinds of stuff for this right at the Promare opening. So I could totally see some little caveats from Promare being in this.
Oh, for sure.
That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that building in Promare did eventually take off too, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that this one could as well. But I'm curious. Yeah, Also, what's his name? Okami. He seems to have like a thing for like breaking things off of animals. Because didn't he like break the rhino's like horn off or something?
Nose,
Yes.
and then the deer's antlers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like a thing that's going to continue to happen. That's a good point. I was like, okay, all right. I don't know
Well,
if
there
that
was also the
necessary.
tease of her friend Nazuna.
Oh yeah, from the beginning of the
she's-
episode. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it's just gone, and it's just nothing else is going to be said this whole episode.
It feels like
All
she's
right,
coming
thanks.
back at some point. Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah. Well, she does have a character in the show.
she
so
does. Yeah.
We will see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she did get turned into like a Beastman too, I think. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, no.
She looks
but,
like a rabbit thing, kind of. I'm not sure.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It was a good episode overall. A little bit too much action for me without a lot of like time to reflect,
Yeah,
which is kind of a pet peeve of mine when there's a lot to the like world that you're in. When they're not doing enough explanation or like uncovering, and there's just a lot of like boom, and then we did this, and then there's people chasing us, and then that takes me out of it a little bit, because at some point I don't care if there's not enough character building,
yeah, and it's not great to leave all of that stuff to like episode 11 to like drop it like Darling and the Franxx like with episode 19 or 20 whatever that did that. Like, so yeah, hopefully they keep like dripping like little clues about like what's really going on along the way. I think they've done a pretty decent job of that until now, but it could be frustrating if they just like get sidetracked and we don't find out more about the world that they're in.
Yeah, but it's good, still good so far as a show.
Yeah, oh yeah,
so.
I agree.
Oh, one thing I found interesting about is they're saying the show's an ONA. What the fuck is that about?
It's an original, I guess.
So it's just an original net animation. I think that's because it's airing specifically on Netflix. Most Netflix shows are known as ONAs because they're
That would
not
make
airing
sense to
on
me.
TV. Yeah.
Netflix has been really liking those anime shows like that have animal elements, and I'm not sure why, but after
Beastars?
yeah, and this it feels like a very similar feel to them, and it almost makes me wonder if Netflix, whoever's picking these shows for
They're a furry?
Netflix, or I don't know if I have to say they're a furry, but they have a specific idea of what like they would like their anime to be or something, and that's like pushing some button. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Netflix has like a pretty good thumb on like the zeitgeist of like a bunch of different types of communities, and like they're pretty good at picking like things that they know will become not just like they're not just decent shows, but like popular among like different demographics, like who watch anime or who watch TV shows. And like,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a good
this,
way to put it.
This fits perfectly with that kind of thing. Yeah,
I mean, look at the success of Tiger King, and who is that for? You know,
that's a good point. I mean, that's just like you put something out that's weird enough, everybody will check it out.
It's true. It's true.
that the thing about that one is like you watch it and you're like, these are real people. What the fuck?
These are real people. But
Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. It's like that saying, like, you can't make this shit up.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You guys have anything else?
Nah, that's it.
All right. We thank everybody for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Take updates on new podcasts or videos. You can also find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, the new Google thing.
Google
What is
Podcasts.
it? Just Google Podcasts. Cool. You updated that. Spotify and Stitcher. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. Please come to our Discord. I post almost daily for the most part, something weird or some meme I find that I think's funny. And I know Bcom always answers people when they ask serious questions, because nobody ever asked me anything serious.
yeah, we don't trust you to be serious, Leo.
Yeah, that link is in our description, and we will see everybody for the next episode.
See ya.
Yes. Bye.